So the debate continues. What's actually better, machines or free weights? Today I'm going to go over the history of machines and histories of companies like Nautilus. We're going to settle once and for all what's actually better in the long run, machines or doing free weight exercise. But before I do that, hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification icon so you don't miss when I drop more evidence-based videos explaining the truth behind effective muscle growth and effective, efficient, safe exercise. While exercise has become popular within the last couple of decades, people have been training with resistance for hundreds of years. It's only since about the 70s, when the movie Pumping Iron came out, that weight training became very, very popular. And this is where we started to have all these different advancements in supplements, opening of new gyms, and improvements in exercise machine design. But one of the early inventors of really effective exercise equipment was Arthur Jones, the founder of Nautilus. Right here I have what's called the Nautilus Duo Squat, a very legendary leg press machine. Now Arthur Jones, he wasn't a professional bodybuilder or an athlete or anything. He was more a weightlifting hobbyist. And during periods of his time off in his career, which was generally hunting animals, filming animals, catching wildlife in Africa, Arthur Jones liked to train with weights. He discovered very early on the huge amount of improvements you can make in your physiology with simple resistance training. Arthur Jones often worked out with just a basic set of dumbbells and barbells, but found huge inadequacies in these exercises. Simply out of interest, he began fabricating and building his own machines in order to make up for these inadequacies that he found inherent in free weight exercises. This is where the company Nautilus came from. Originally, Arthur Jones did not set out to sell any machines. He began training professional bodybuilders and athletes on his machines, guaranteeing a massive improvement compared to the barbell. And as interest rose because of the huge results he was getting from training these people on his Nautilus machine, a huge demand came for him to build and sell this equipment. And that's pretty much how the Nautilus company started. One of the most obvious inadequacies Arthur Jones found with traditional free weight exercises was the unbalanced resistance through the range of motion. What Arthur Jones noticed was that a muscle's ability to produce force changed throughout the range of motion. Your muscle was weaker in the extended position, therefore it was more appropriate to reduce the amount of resistance applied to the target muscle in lengthened positions, and your muscle is actually stronger somewhere in the middle of the range of motion depending on the exercise. So Arthur Jones thought it would make sense to challenge the muscle in the strongest positions of the range. This is where the invention of the cam came from. The cam varies the moment arm within the exercise in order to add resistance where the muscles are strongest and drop off resistance where the muscle is weaker, providing a more balanced resistance throughout the range of motion, which allows you to train the muscle harder and with less sticking points. So the cam provides variable resistance by changing the distance or the length of the moment arm between the axis of rotation where the chain touches the cam and the position of the range of motion. Where the moment arm length is shorter, as you can see here, there is less resistance applied to the muscle. Compared to if we go throughout the range of motion, you can see that there is a larger distance between where the chain touches the cam and the axis of rotation, which provides more resistance on the muscle. Each cam is designed specifically to accommodate the strength curve of the targeted muscle area. So each cam's shape will actually look different depending on the exercise. This is what makes Nautilus superior to other exercise equipment. You'll notice a lot of modern machines try to imitate the cam of Nautilus, but it isn't actually a cam at all. As you can see here with this biceps machine, it has something that looks like a cam, but it's just a circle that does not change shape. Therefore, it is not going to change the moment arm and not going to change the resistance throughout the range of motion. It's complete fraud. However, Nautilus machines are not the only machines that provide manual resistance. Hammer strength machines do too. Notice the axis of rotation and the distance between that and the weight changes throughout the range of motion during this exercise. We have a longer moment arm between the axis of rotation and the weight where the muscle is the strongest. And when we reach the extended position, the distance shortens, shortening the moment arm and lowering the amount of resistance in the extended position. Most hammer strength machines do this extremely well and are nearly as effective as Nautilus equipment. Now, free weight exercises do have some advantages over machines. Here's a couple of them. Number one, free weights are frictionless. In a lot of gyms, the machines are very poorly maintained, providing a lot of friction between the guide rods. This means you're going to get more resistance on the positive phase and less resistance on the negative phase, making for a very unbalanced resistance curve. Even some really good Nautilus machines that are poorly maintained will have this problem. Since there are no moving parts in a free weight exercise, it becomes frictionless. This is one huge advantage that free weights have over machines. Another advantage free weights have over machines is cost. You could get a power rack for your home with all the essential exercises you need to build a good physique for far less money than it would take to build out a gym filled with machines. So if you're an individual that prefers to train at home, free weights are going to be much more cost effective for you. This is a huge upside that free weights have over machines. They're just far cheaper. Even poorly designed machines like Life Fitness and Matrix cost several $1,000s just for one exercise. Meanwhile, you can get a power rack with a bar and some weight and have dozens of exercises that you can do right at home. Now, another small disadvantage that free weights have versus machines is that they're a little less time efficient. And the reason is you have to put the weights on and peel the weights off from exercise to exercise, especially if you're training at home with a power rack. There's going to be a lot of changing that needs to be done between exercises. This makes your workout last a little bit longer. It's not a huge disadvantage, but it has to be noted. All right, so clearly there's some advantages and disadvantages to both machines and free weights, but what you're probably most interested in is what provides the most strength and the most muscle growth. Now, here's the truth. In the long run, they will be exactly the same. Now, the reason people think there's a difference between free weights and machines when it comes to improving strength is because of what they use to measure strength. Now, most people identify how strong you are based on how much you could bench press, squat, and deadlift. But as we discussed earlier, these include technical skills. So if you are using these movements to indicate how strong you are, people who use those movements and practice them and develop the skill more over time are going to be able to use more weight in these movements and appear stronger. The bench, squat, and deadlift are not measures of strength, merely demonstrations of strength. So this is where that whole argument comes from that free weights are better than machines for building strength, because if you took an individual who only did a chest press their whole life versus an individual who did a bench press their whole life, and then you measured them on the bench press, obviously the individual who was practicing the bench press over that period of time would develop more skill and therefore be able to move more weight and appear stronger. But when it comes to the actual amount of force the muscle can produce, in the long run, machines and free weights will be exactly the same. Now, what about muscle growth? Again, machines and free weights will provide identical results in the long run when it comes to muscle. All that matters is that you train very intensely and progressively and recover properly. Your genetics are mostly going to dictate how much muscle you grow, not the tool you use to stimulate your muscle. Remember, machines and free weights, they're merely tools to provide resistance for your muscle to work against, to provide an adaptive response and a stimulus. The tool you use is relatively irrelevant if your training is intense and progressive. A well-designed machine is going to be far more efficient and far safer than a lot of free weight exercise, which means you are going to get to your ultimate genetic potential with less risk of injury and less time in the gym. But in terms of overall muscle growth, they're going to be absolutely identical. Join my coaching and I will teach you how to build a workout plan based on what you have in your gym for the ultimate muscle growth, the ultimate safety, the ultimate efficiency. The link to join my private coaching is in the description below. And also, if you want more direction in how to choose exercises and design your workout, try my Golden Era System at goldenerasystem.com or click the link in the description. That video series will outline and guide you towards creating a very good workout.